Well, what we've also done in this release is really beef up the functionality found in parameters. So when we released 3.5, we immediately got a lot of feedback that our end users love using it because they don't have to now they don't have to utilize two different tools to build prompting. But one thing they did notice, they wanted more functionality, so more control on one, what the input mask looks like for the end user. So once they've created that date or selected the date with the date picker, they want to like modify what that input looks like on the parameter page itself. Another thing is what we were hearing a lot of is the default value. Wanted to drive that with a parameter. So for instance, they wanted to, hey, I want to specify next week, 7 days ago, as a default for the parameter we already set. So we can do that now with a formula. So I can put now and then -7 would be like next week, last week. You can also do things like hidden parameters. So as soon as they make a selection of parameter, we can modify that and then pass it to something else. So the hidden parameter is really nice because you can have parameters where you're probably passing them all in the session, and you don't want these things to be set again by the end user. So maybe it is like a role or a region or territory they belong to. You already know all that information. You don't need to prompt them. You don't need a parameter prompt for that. And so what was happening in the previous release was that every parameter had a corresponding input or the field for it. And so what we're saying now is that, hey, you can require that they don't have to see that on the UI. It needs to be dynamically passed in from some other means. The post-processing piece parameter is really kind of tied to that hidden parameter, so that you could take an input, make a parameter hidden, and then instead of actually specifying something there, you can actually create a function that takes the input and converts it into something else. So maybe I want to convert a date over that is giving me the date in a full in one format, and I need to convert it to another format specifically for my specific database. And then lastly is display value for the formulas. That a lot of times they'll have users were saying that they had a pick list of like dates, but they wanted the dates to be formatted or the new numbers to be formatted a certain way. So if there were thresholds that they wanted to have in there as far as 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, they wanted to specify really in there that it's in dollars that this threshold amounts were. They can actually put some formatting on there, or add some things to it as well. So with that, I'm going to go into this report here and kind of show you some of this new functionality with parameters. So I'm just going to close this up. Data sets, variables, get to start date. So the first thing is, let me get in preview mode here so you can see what the parameters look like right now. So start date, one of the things that we kind of reviewed was specifying the formatting. So now we can format the actual, so if I want to make it hours and minutes, display there, you can put the actual time in the parameter or not. We can also specify the default value. So I'm just gonna get the oops. So we control the default. So I can actually say, you know what, for the default value, I want to make it a parameter, for instance. So now it's always going to be the current date will be the first of the first. It'll be the default for this field. So I could say current date, or like we did, like I was talking about in my scenario, we can also do like a -7 if we wanted to. So 7 days ago, like last week, all the time. That might be the right way of defining it. But again, you get the idea here of you can specify a formula, and you get the full formula builder right here if you need it as well. Another thing that we put in is the the post processing and the hidden parameter as well. So I'll show that on this report here, this hidden parameter report. So here I'm actually using metadata, a metadata query, and with metadata, it requires the date to be specified in a simple date format. So year dash month numerically, and then the day in numerics. So what we did for this report here is created a parameter called date, and if you notice with the reporting with our date pickers and everything, we give the true date and time when we specify a date value. It gives it and it specifies it also with a bunch of gives you the day, gives you the month, and not in a numeric, it'll give it in a text. So we needed to convert this over into what the MQL query needs to be passed. So it needs that simple date format. So we would take that date, the date picker, and then we have a hidden parameter that then takes that parameter that we just have, the date, and then converts it into, and I'm using a standard function here, the message function with inside, and I'm specifying it to be, we want this to be in YYY-MM-DD. So you can see when I'll throw this hidden parameter so you can see it on the report when I run it. What it looks like. So when I run this report, that's the date, the true date that we're returning back when the date picker picks the date, and then we're actually specifying a format for that, and that's what we're passing into the MQL query. So if you look at that, it says hidden param. You look at my MQL query here, the value is hidden parameter. So that just gives you one way of utilizing the hidden functionality, hidden parameter functionality, as well as using that post process formula.